So, just to remind everybody, the way that our public hearing works is it opens and closes with a gavel. There's no motions. We will call people up to present. I'm going to take 30 seconds about the budget because we're going to do our full-blown presentation on the budget will be November 7th, and then that will be another public hearing after you've heard a full-blown explanation of the budget. Then we'll have another public hearing, and then we'll vote. I think we vote on the November 7th on the preliminary budget. And so there's two more chances at least to make tweaks to the budget. So I'm going to call this hearing open. Public hearing is now open, and remind everybody that's here, if you signed up to speak, you're more than welcome to speak. And you have about a 3-minute time frame. You can't cede your time to anybody else. If you're really, really desperate and want more time, I'm sure we'll give you more time. But, no. Steve,
you've been sitting here for a while.
Yeah, anybody, if you want to say something about the budget and you haven't signed up, if you could sign up and then bring that list back, because that's what we're going to start with. All right. Let me just say, and some of these we'll put in writing when the full budget is finished. But the way that the budget is so far panning out this year, we just got some more quotes this week, some final quotes on insurance and things. The way that the budget looks like it's setting up right now is that we have a total tax levy to date of $1,920,181. And that's $33,228 under the tax cap. So we've got the budget under the tax cap. What we did with the general fund so far, and the board, again, is still working, we talked this through again during the work session and stuff. The general fund is about $6,817 less than last year. And what we did was we took some of the money that would have gone to the general fund and we moved it over to highway because we're behind on a few highway projects. And we thought that next year, if we took some of the money and moved it into highway, we could get some of the things that we're behind on completed. Next year, we can start earlier and get things done and kind of roll through the year efficiently. So the highway budget got a bigger boost this year than the general fund did. Thank you.
Thanks.
And that's really, I mean, that's really about all that I think. I mean, the good news is that the rate per thousand on the assessed value last year was, I don't know if you ever look at your rate per thousand, the assessed value of your house. And we look at it a lot because there's a dollar amount for the school system and there's a dollar amount for the town and for the fire department. And last year we were at $3.18 per thousand, and this year our total, because of the way the budget so far has gone, we're down to $3.11 per thousand. So those are all good signs that things are good. And that's really it until we finish the budget and we have a complete report. I'll give the presentation on November 7th after getting a lot more input from the board and from you. So with that, I'm going to start calling people, and we'd love to hear what your thoughts are, any wish list items or things you'd like to say. We'd like to hear you. Alfreda Tillman, why don't you start?
Right here? I don't have to look. There you go. I lost the other page.
Tillman, Shaughnessy Highway. Huge, lot of numbers here, folks. I'm glad you know how to juggle them. I'm still trying to figure it all out. But my big concern was library. And the usual line has 000, and then it got moved elsewhere, and I can't find that page, but we're around 76,000 in this budget. Is that correct? Around 76?
It's a little over 77.
Yeah. Good. I told you we should put toll booths up, Betsy. We would have money coming out of our ears and tickets from the cops. Well, it's here someplace. But I just want to be sure that that amount of money stays, well, maybe not, stays in the budget for the library plan for Unionvale. That's pretty much it. Any idea when this road is going to get finished?
Bridges. The bridges, you mean?
The bridges and my road.
Well, they've given themselves 6 months till the end of November, I believe, but it just kind of looks like they're going to be finished
Pretty
a little
close,
early, but yeah,
Okay,
so it's
and then
coming.
And then did they finally agree that it would be nice of them to donate us new coverage for Shaughnessy Road?
Not yet.
Keep working on
Hang
it.
in there.
Thank you.
They've been patching it.
Are they the ones?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, something. They're missing a lot of holes.
So it'll be 5 months starting Monday. They completed 5 months by Monday this week, the next week, so
They wanted
they
6.
should be getting done, so.
Yeah.
If they have extra money, we could get into the cemetery.
All right, thank you very much. Dawn Tree? You sure?
It was just a sign-in sheet.
Oh, okay. All right. If you change your mind, you're on here. All right, Tom Beiswinger? Same? You're going to pass too? Okay. All right, Carlos Mina?
I was just wondering how much money's in the budget for Community Day?
Why? I don't remember, but we have all of our cultural and recreational things mixed in together.
Because last year, I think it was kind of light.
We have a new idea for it. Our event coordinator has, all that money that's in the cultural recreation bucket can move around a little bit, but she does have a new idea which we'll present.
Okay.
And I think that your comments were really terrific last time, and they weren't, I would say that the staff agreed with you. So it's
Okay.
something that's already being reworked, and I think they're working on a plan that we want to share with the board when we finish all this other stuff, and then we start planning for next year. But you were right, and people know.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Carlos. I think that for those of you who weren't here that night, Carlos thought that the Community Day was a little dull, and he was recommending that we beef it up a little bit, and the staff agreed with him, so we're working on a new plan. So thank you. He was accurate. All right, next up, Karen Sneer.
Karen Snare, Burbank Village Road. I just have a couple of comments to make in favor of continuing the library funding at the level that we have had for the last 5 years. I've read all the correspondence that's posted on the website, and I have 2 remarks to make. One is, I understand that the amount of funding requested is based on an average per capita of residents of Dutchess County. When they make that per capita, they're counting all the people, not just the library users. So it seems to me that the suggestion that we set our funding level by counting only library card holders would give us an unfair advantage in the calculations. That's a double standard. And the suggestion that we contract individually with Millbrook Library and/or Beekman Library doesn't make any sense to me, because any user of any Mid-Hudson Library System library is a user of all the Mid-Hudson Library System libraries. This is a privilege I appreciate and use often. I very often get a book that Millbrook Library doesn't happen to have from the far reaches of the system, and I very often drop into other libraries if I happen to be going by. So I really appreciate the privilege that the Mid-Hudson Library System gives me to do that, and I'm therefore in favor of just supporting the Mid-Hudson Library System. And I'm in favor of renewing the contract with them that we've had for the last 5 years. It's been working very well. I don't see any need for any changes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Joseph Kelly.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Joe Kelly, I live on West Clove Mountain Road. So in preparation for the hearing tonight, I went to the town website, and I was a little surprised that I couldn't find the 2020 preliminary budget for viewing, since since tonight's hearing is about getting public comments on the budget. So perhaps in the future, the preliminary budget can be posted on the website, so residents don't have to stop by Town Hall or contact the town clerk's office to obtain a copy. Based on the email between Supervisor Moss and the Mid-Hudson Library System that have been posted on the homepage on the website, back on May 24th, the MHLS offered to extend the current library agreement for 2 more years with a 2.25% increase for 2020 and no additional increase in 2021. And on July 15th, the MHLS notified Supervisor Moss that the increase was being reduced to 2% to fall within the 2020 tax cap. Using these figures, this agreement would cost the town less than $1,600 more per year over the next 2 years over what we're paying now. I believe the MHLS came in with a very strong offer, but from the emails, it appears that perhaps you disagree. Ultimately, the member libraries of the MHLS are offering to provide unrestricted library services open to all Town of Unionville residents, which is a service many residents take advantage of and benefit from. While all of us would like to pay less, I would think that most residents understand that we need to pay our fair share. After reviewing the 2020 budget summary that Andrea graciously emailed to me, it wasn't clear if the cost of renewing the library agreement is included or not, although Alfreda's information seems to lend that it is. So I hope that's the case and that the town board authorizes Supervisor Moss to execute the library agreement without any further delay. I'm going to provide my written statement with attached references to Andrea for the record. Thank you.
Thank you. So just by way of clarification, we're following the same process this year we did last year, which was, we've already had 2 hearings on the budget, and we also have this one, we have tonight's, and we have another one November 7th, and we're having a second one in November before we vote. So we have a series of public hearings on the budget, and the way we laid it out was to have a, because it's so preliminary in the number, we didn't even have all the healthcare costs in yet, so the numbers keep changing. We post 1 copy with the town clerk as we're having these hearings, and then as we get all of our quotes in and everything gets buttoned up, which I'm thinking will happen in the next week, we're pretty close, then the final copy, or the final preliminary copy gets voted on and we post that on the web. That's what we did last year and it worked well, and the only reason it didn't this year is because even the numbers that Alfreda Tillman has have been changed already because of the quotes we were waiting for. So as a matter of fact, we just got a commercial liability insurance carrier to give us numbers yesterday. So that's why we didn't, post it, because it looks so official, and then, but when we vote on the preliminary one, that one goes up right away. And that'll be November 7th, after the public hearing that night, okay? And then there's still one more chance to change it, just so you know. We'd love to hear more. Bonnie Pfeiffer.
Bonnie Pfeiffer, West Clove Mountain Road. Actually wasn't thinking I was going to speak tonight. Not really a public speaker. Thought it was a sign-in sheet too, but since I'm here, I just feel like I'm here because I really want to support the library and really feel like we need to continue to support them financially and even consider increasing that, and a little dismayed that we keep coming back to do we not? And so I just want to say I really feel like the library is a necessity, and we need to do our part to keep that available to all of us, and not just so that it's available, like we're playing by the rules, but it's just something we should be doing. We shouldn't be questioning whether or not we should or shouldn't be doing it. So I'm just here to say we should be,
Yeah.
and we should do it.
You got it. Thanks. Thank you, Bonnie. My glasses. Louise Shazang.
Hi, I passed.
You pass? Okay.
But what Karen said was perfect, and she did the numbers. I'm not a numbers person, but she reiterated my opinion.
Your thoughts. Okay.
Keep things as they are, and it's perfect.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. Bill Sadler, did you want to comment or no? Great. Okay.
Just briefly. Those grandchildren you hear are mine. And I am a public speaker, but it's always stuff that other people have written for me. So I just want to lend my voice to the folks that find the library an essential part of the community. I think it's the memory and the heart of a community. And I would love to see the funding go forward the way that it has for the last 5 years. I just think it's, as other people have said, I think it's essential, you know. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Eileen Pucci?
Good evening. I too would like to speak in support of funding the library. I just want to show people here behind the desks, and this is this month's calendar for the Beekman Library. This evening, during the day today, there were 9 events going on at the library. Everything from babies and books to a program called A Matter of Balance that helps seniors improve their balance. There's toddler story time, there's films for adults, there's films for family. You could not pay for this if you had to go out and buy the products and the services that the library offers. The library is like the heart of the community. And rather than trying to say, we only want to pay for the people that use the library, it seems to me that it behooves the town to get out there among the community and encourage people who might not know about the library, tell them all about what they can get there for their meager tax dollars, and encourage them to get library cards and participate in what the library has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Marnie Baxt?
Here I am.
Would you like to come up? Only reason is that the microphone will enable the people at home to hear you.
Hi. There's very little left for me to say. I too came to speak in favor of the library. I think it's a vital resource for the community. I think libraries are important. And I think that, yes, what a great idea that we should be encouraging. I think you, the town board, should be encouraging people to join the library. It's just a fabulous resource, and I can't imagine what would happen if all of the things that the library did were not available to the town residents. It would be, you know, well, I don't want to use the word criminal, but it would be terrible. So, yes, libraries.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that would like to discuss anything budget-related?
I have a letter from somebody that couldn't be here. I'll try and talk into my mic. She couldn't be here for the public hearing, so I asked if I could read it for her. Her name is Joy Poskett. Other than being a Unionville resident, I don't know where she lives. I understand that you are in the process of working on the budget, and I'm sure there are items that need to be included. One of those needs is full access to our library. Libraries are much more than a place to borrow books, although that in and of itself is vital because many people do not have access to the internet or the funds to purchase books, or quite frankly prefer borrowing books to either of those options. Libraries are repositories of knowledge, meeting places for the community to read, play, learn, and listen to music together. They help build lifelong readers and learners. They are a living, vital part of any civilized community and must be maintained. Please do not take this away.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody else have anything they'd like to add? No? Okay. Well, thank you very much. We will conclude the hearing when I hit the gavel, and then we're going to take a quick break and make some copies of things and come back for our regular board meeting. All right? Thank you very much for coming. Feel free to stay. Saluting the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from the September 19th meeting. Did every town board member get a chance to read those over?
Yes.
May I have a motion to approve?
I would like to make a motion to approve them as written.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? All right, motion carries. The minutes have been approved. Next, we are going to have a special presentation. Our very friendly coordinator, Mary Jane Begley, is here tonight, and she's going to come up to the microphone, if you don't mind, Mary Jane, so they can hear you. She's going to give us a report on the blood drive that she organized for Hannah Bacher. Thank you, Mary Jane.
Hi. Yes, we had the blood drive on October 12th, and it was in the Timeware Senior Center, and we had a steady flow all day long, and we ended up getting 100 pints for Hannah.
Wow.
So her sister was there, and she was very excited that we got 100 pints, and the New York Blood Bank people were very excited that we got it. So I had lots of help. My co-coordinator there was Elfrida Tillman, putting out signs
She put
and
signs everywhere.
making phone calls, and she was very involved. And we also had a lot of help from Damara Sika. She was very nice to make cards that people could fill out and send to Hannah, and her sister brought them down, and Hannah was very happy with those. And she also did, she was nice enough, Athena Gyro, the Greek restaurant on Route 55, called on Friday, and they wanted to do something for the blood drive. So they were nice enough to bring in food, and I had them, I used that to feed the New York Blood Center people. And, it went off very well. They were very happy with that. And we sent thank you notes to them. We also sent thank you notes to the New York Blood Center people, for doing such a good job. I mean, they were really good. They were there on time. They, cleaned up. And also John Osika, because he put the room back to order for me that night at the end of the day.
My husband John did a lot too.
Yes. Everybody was very helpful. So we all did. So, but yeah, it was a very successful drive, and maybe if we can see in the spring, maybe we can have another one. I'd like to thank the town board for letting us have the senior room without a fear. It was good, so everybody that could came.
The two town board members managing to give blood, and John couldn't because
it was too early.
Because he already gave.
But he can give it in a few weeks.
Yeah,
we gave him the code.
I got the code.
There's a code that if
I'll be
you
eligible
use,
on the 30th, so.
yeah, there's a code that you can use to give to New York Blood Center, and they will credit the blood towards Hannah. So if anybody needs that code, call me, and I can give it to them, huh?
Oh, it is?
Good, oh, that's
Okay.
good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. Yeah, so this way, so I, hopefully, we can do it again in a couple of months, the weather's better and all, and, we can advertise it as well as we did this time. It will work out, so.
Well, thank you. You are a wonderful organizer, because you got that soup to nuts done by yourself with Elfrida and all your other help, but it was really well organized, and you did a great job.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, Town Supervisor report. I have the cash flow report in front of me. We are a little light on cash. We're at year-to-date, we're at 97% of what we budgeted, but we're doing well. Towards the end of the year, we'll have sales tax and other things hit. We're 90% of our expenses going out, which is great. We're underspending, which we have tried to do whenever we can, and we certainly did that well last year, and we're hoping this year ends up with a little bit below what we expected to expend, because I think that that helps the town and helps our fund balance and helps us save some money. So we're doing fine. There isn't anything extraordinary going other than the payrolls. In August, we're so high because we have 3 of them. But this year, we're back to, in this month, we're back to normal. So I think from a cash flow perspective, we look good. I wanted to let everybody know, we just got as I mentioned to Mr. Kelly earlier, we just got our commercial liability insured. We got the application in and the quote almost simultaneously because we were going back and forth with them. And it was a little lower than they had predicted, so that's great news. The one thing that we're grappling with now is making sure that all the vehicles and all the things that we have on the insurance list are accurate and all the VIN numbers are good, and that's a little tedious, so we're still working on that. But we got a good quote, we're with a good company, and we're pleased that we're renewing with them. I think most of you are aware that we had the Beekman versus Unionville, the Article 78 that Beekman took out vis-a-vis the cell tower project that Unionville wanted in Time Warner Park. That was taken out by Beekman, and we've responded to that, and that all went in yesterday by 5 or 5:30, something like that. But anyway, it's completed, everything's in, and so everybody will now wait to just see what happens. I don't have an inkling, any idea as to how these things work out, but we did what we were supposed to do and responded, and we'll just wait and see. I did want to pay, the board, we all discussed this at our work session a little bit, but the public wasn't there. We wanted to share with you, thank you, John. We wanted to share with you the results from Oktoberfest, especially given Mr. Mina's comments about Community Day, because we want to revamp Community Day a little bit to make it, there's some new ideas, not only a theme idea, but things about, bringing brand new residents in and having new booths and new things and lots of stuff to do. So making Community Day, but it can't be another Oktoberfest, it's got to be more about the community and what we're doing here, so it will be different. But Oktoberfest this year was really impressive. We had kind of buttoned up a lot of things that we omitted last year, and we had, for example, we had this NFL room. It was very hot that day, and we found out there were 2 New York teams playing, and we didn't want to lose everybody because the Jets were playing the Patriots and the Giants were playing later in the day. So we set up a whole NFL room with blacked out windows that looked like a little pub in there, and that was really popular because it was air conditioned and it was 85 degrees that day. But the main thing is everything went really well. We made a nice profit for the town, and we used that money to fund the other events that we have for the year. Where Oktoberfest is all about fun and making a profit to fund our other events, Community Day is about people learning more about the community. But all of our events are designed to show people that this is a wonderful place to live. And I think what's interesting about Oktoberfest, I heard some wonderful comments, but the staff reported that it was extremely popular. They got many, many compliments as people were leaving, and they felt like the guests were saying that there was something there for everyone. But we had a 41% increase in people attending from the year before. So that's, that shows that we can tweak something and make it work, Carlos. So we had over 1,800 people come, and the year before we had, I think, close to 1,200. So we were very pleased with that, and I think the staff was pleased, and if you guys weren't there, it was a good time. So come next time. Now, the other thing I wanted everybody to know, that we have the stormwater, the MS4 stormwater, we have a coordinator named George Kolb who goes to the monthly meetings. I go from time to time when they're in Millbrook. But on November 13th, the MS4 meeting is going to be held in Unionville. They like to rotate around. So we're going to have an MS4 meeting, which means that somebody from every town in Dutchess County will be here. They're either their supervisor, but typically it's an MS4 coordinator. But that day is unique because they're going to be training all the highway departments at 9 a.m. So I'm going to send this message out on email, but it's nice that we're getting some people to come to our town, and the highway department's training is going to be very important. I also wanted to let you know that we had the CDBG grant last year, the Community Development Block Grant, and it was started a couple years ago, and it took a while to get going. We got it finished, and there was so much paperwork with it, but the good news is that Andrea and I were audited. The county came in and requested a date on the calendar, and they audited all of our records and our progress for the 2017 Time Warner Park Improvement Project. Our records, the program and financial records were found to be very well organized and complete with all required documents. We followed all the proper procurement procedures and were in compliance with the standards set forth by HUD for the Community Development Block Grant Program. They were very pleased with our cooperation, and it was very much appreciated. And I just wanted to mention it because this is like our 4th audit that we've had this year. The only one we haven't heard back from yet is the MS4, but so far so good. So we're in good stead with them should we apply for another CDBG grant. Also, I'd like to mention that the fire department sent over their budget. It's on file with the town clerk, and I just glanced at it briefly, and they did not raise their taxes by 1 penny, which is very nice, and they do a good job over there, so we're appreciative of that. I'm sure they have copies for anybody who wants them. We heard from our IT, Sullivan Data, our IT management company, and we are changing some sign-in procedures to enhance some security measures, but we feel really comfortable with this company, and they told us that we're just as secure as what did I tell you at the work session? They said we're just as secure as a company that has a $60 million budget. You know, they've set it up with the proper firewalls and offsite servers and all that. But we are going to be implementing some new login security just to change things up. We haven't done it in a few months, so they're going to do it again, just to torture the employees. So, we've gotten a few comments from residents. Edgings on Quinlan Road have been done. We had a very smart, interesting, it was just funny when he came in, a resident came in who lives on Highview Road, and he said, you know, you have that handicap sign to the left of the entrance of the door, which has a blue, you know, when we had the striping done. And he said, I drive a big truck, I'm handicapped, and I get out, pull into that spot, I get out, and I have to walk all the way around my truck to get into that door, and it's really a struggle for me. Would you mind considering putting a handicap spot on the other side, which makes complete sense, because the driver is the one who's handicapped. So Tom's saying on to put the sign in. We haven't done the striping yet, but this gentleman made a great recommendation that we should have all thought of. His name is Paul Mills from Highview Road, so thank you, Mr. Mills. That has been done, and we'll get the striping done as soon as we can, but the sign is up. And that was about, is that everything I have? MS4 training for highway departments, some letters are, the truck that we ordered is expected to arrive. We ordered this truck, if you guys remember, in January, or no, actually later. Councilman Frazier did all that work on the quotes for us, and we put it in, it wasn't January, it might have been February, but we were expecting it. Yeah, we were expecting it in September, and they were a little bit delayed, and they've assured us that they were waiting for one more piece. The body was there, the crane is coming at the end of October, the chassis is there, and it is coming in the new truck that we are paying for in cash with fund balance, the fund balance we had left in the highway budget. So we won't have any debt with that, but we're paying for that cash at the end of November when it arrives. So we're waiting, and we'll keep everybody posted when that does get here. And that's it for my report. Board member reports, how about you, Councilman McMorris?
I had a good meeting with the CAC last night, and we talked a little bit about climate smart communities and clean energy communities.
Can you see? Sorry.
Yeah, I can see.
Yeah. Other than that, and I've taken a couple of webinars, and I've suggested to both the planning board, zoning board, and the CAC that they take this webinar that's going on now, which is called CAC 101, and it's how they coordinate all the organizations together to work together. So,
good.
That's all I have right now.
That's great. All right, Councilwoman Kelly?
So probably like most of the town board, I've been spending a great deal of time with the budget, which has been consuming a lot of my time, and talking to residents about different things. But I want to just make a special thank you to everyone who held any part in Saturday. As a nurse, that just like totally overwhelmed me. People came who were only up for the weekend because this is their weekend house. One man I met was definitely older than me, I don't know how old he was, said he had never donated blood before, he didn't know what to expect, but he felt this was a good cause, and I thought that was like so compelling that he works at IBM where they have blood donations all the time, yet he felt this was compelling. So I think part of it was the advertising, Part of it was really that Unionville does come together as a community when we need to. It was definitely my honor to meet Sarah. I think it was amazing. She left lists of things that they needed at Ronald McDonald House. I know myself, I ran home, got a bunch of stuff that I had been collecting through the year, and it was just like overwhelming. People came in with gift cards that went directly into those bags. Hannah's, all the cards where they were being collected and they were watched over. People just showed their support in every which way. So from every person who got here early before the blood people came to, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, giving my blood was like so little compared to what other people did. So I definitely want to give your thanks, and just Andrea encouraged me to watch Sarah's post on Facebook, and oh my goodness, her overwhelming gratitude and thanks. For 20 minutes, she talks a lot about the blood drive and everything Unionville has done. So it was just really overwhelming to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Frazier?
Yeah, you mentioned Oktoberfest. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming out. We all had a great time, and it's good to see all these folks coming out every year. Just I wanted to give a shout out to East Fishkill Provisions for providing the German fair food. It was a really good thing, and everybody enjoyed it.
Everybody loved it, yeah. Thank you. All right, Councilman Welsh?
Yeah, I've been, of course, involved with budget stuff, library stuff, and, of course, the Oktoberfest. And our park staff really stepped up to really make sure that we could accommodate all those 1,800 people without any glitches. Everything went very smoothly, and I'd like to thank them for being on top of everything that day.
Yeah, they did a great job.
They were on point, taking care of any problems that did arise, too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Immediately resolved them.
We're lucky we have a great team there. We really do.
Anything. I too want to give kudos to East Fishkill Provisions, because when that gentleman was not feeling good and Rob Casey brought me over, they were already like supplying me with water and everything, like you said. Shane's like, what do you need? I'm like, I am burning hot. And he just got me a beach umbrella so I wasn't in the sun with this gentleman. So it was just amazing. And then the same woman from East Fishkill Provisions, when she saw us later, he's like, no, I don't need a water. And she's like, here. Like, you know, they were great.
Yeah.
They were really beyond just, selling food and making a buck. They really sort of
They jump into the
established
community.
themselves.
Yeah, they really do.
Established themselves in the community. So that was really lovely to see.
Yeah, that's great. Wonderful, thank you. Now it is time for the town clerk report. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I think everyone
Been busy?
spoke everything, and we've certainly been busy on the back end.
We really have. All right, well, thank you. Thanks for everything you've been doing too, Andrea. All right, now we have public comments on agenda items. Does anybody have anything on the agenda that you'd like to address? No? Okay. Board, committee, commission, and council reports. Now, I will say, one of the CAC members, the chair, couldn't get back in time she was in the city today, was on the train and wasn't going to get here, so she asked me to give her a report, and I'll tell you two things. I don't think Pat's not here either. Pat was going to come in and try to cover for her, but he may have been detained at work. So two things that happened. One, on Sunday, the CAC, and we had a full moon hike with Jake, our park manager, Jake Gosnell, leading it, but he was calling it a Brew Moon hike because the first time was a family-oriented hike, and this one it was going to have a Millhouse Brewing Company beer afterwards. But we kind of took the Brew Moon hike and put it together with a lecture that the CAC organized, with a lecture on cultivating fruit trees. The gentleman that runs the orchards at Shady Knoll, you'll remember Shady Knoll. So he came and talked about how they manage their 1,800 fruit trees and how they graft them and all that. It was really terrific. There were 26 people there. Louise Shazang is gone, but she was there that night. We had a big group the room was arranged in a U. There was food, there was beer after the hike, and the speaker, everybody really enjoyed this young man who was quite interesting as far as how to be a farmer and how to then use the distillery, and that's going to be the follow-up, the whole history of that still that he's got. But it was a wonderful night, and the CAC is planning on doing more of them. They're going to find some really interesting lecturers, and then it will, they're going to add food, that's why it's called Food for Thought, and they're going to try to do these throughout the season. So we tested it for next year, and it looks like it's going to be really popular. People enjoyed it. So we suggest that you come. The other thing I was going to say, the CAC, when we organized this group, which took us a long time, and now I think they're finding their footing, is we asked them to get involved with the recycling center. It was one of the things that we wanted to have more opportunity to offer additional products or services, thank you, that the residents might enjoy. So one of the CAC members came up with a survey, and the recommendation is just to put it on clipboards and ask people when they come in, are there things that you would, because composting has been a really hot thing for recycling centers. It didn't sound like financially to me like that would be a great thing, but I think the CAC has to flush it out for us and see if the people would even be interested. But some of the other ideas he's got are used furniture exchange, used toy exchange, used book exchange, and anything else. So we're going to talk about adding this as, when people come in, to having them take a couple of minutes, fill out a survey, and then collect them, and then Peter can bring them over and give them to Andrea, and we'll know what people are interested in. So anyway, those are a couple of things the CAC is working on. And what's up next? Our events. Oh, they're planning a Halloween party for the kids. It's going to be in the afternoon after the Millbrook party in the morning in the village, the walk around the village with the cute little kids. Great. This is for children 12 and under. They're planning a Halloween party in the senior center for kids with costume contests and prizes and that sort of thing for the little ones. So that would be a full day for those kids. Go to the Millbrook Village and then come over here and get a prize for the best costume. But anyway, that's being planned. That's on October 26th from 3 to 6 p.m. So now we will get to old business. And I am going to, we go back to discussing with the board. We had mentioned this, we've had a discussion about this in our work session. You have this, Steve? I think you do.
Oh, I have this too.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, there was, sorry, I didn't know who got what because of the paper copier. Jeff, you want one of these? Fascinating stuff. This was for us to discuss.
Yeah.
This was, and then we have another topic actually to discuss. As we button things up, we've gotten a lot of new cash policies in place and some things that we've been doing, but one of the things that we found is that there are still a few inconsistencies, 4 of which are on this page, that we need to button up either from an employee benefit standpoint, for payroll related, or to make sure that this thing, the 4 on here match what we have in the handbook. The first is the 2-hour minimums that are already followed by the constables and highway department in order to get, which makes sense, we follow this, but we don't have it in writing, we don't have it board approved. I'd like to recommend number 2 is a new policy where we have any employee that joins us, give them a 3-month waiting period before they are being offered benefits. And I think that this is the only way we can go, because the way that we've set up our health insurance is that we pay the deductible. So if we're going to pay the deductible, you need to have people wait to make sure they're going to be around. Otherwise, they use the deductible and they leave.
It can get expensive.
It can get expensive. And so, obviously you want to make sure, we do have a 90-day trial period in the handbook, and it's a good thing to have. So I think the 3-month waiting period for the benefits is very important. Now, the compensatory time is never in writing. It shouldn't be done unless it is in writing and approved by the board, but it's an interesting thing to have with non-exempt employees for those that want it. And I wouldn't offer it to everybody because I don't think financially it makes sense. The park staff are quite unique in that they have events added on to their regular 40-hour weeks that they have to work. And some of those gentlemen down there, they don't want time and a half. They would rather have the time off.
Sure.
And they also have a calendar that runs really heavy in the spring and the summer, and it's a little lighter in the winter. So what we set up with them is a discussion with the board. This is what they would really like to have, where with board approval, and only for this subset because it does work for them. As it starts to get a little slower in the winter and they want to take 3 hours off because they worked 3 hours in overtime because we had an event, then we can track it with paychecks, so that's one thing. And then their manager, it has to be approved by the manager or it can't happen. And it can't be carried over into the next year. So it's not going to be a financial burden, but it will be a good quality of life thing for them. And in that particular department, it works because of the way that the events hit on their calendar and things they have to prepare for. So I'd like to recommend that we permit it with these rules that are written here. And then the last one is just an issue that we found because of the handbook. In the handbook, it says all full-time, this is 6.1 in health insurance, all full-time regular employees and all full-time elected officials of the town of Unionville as defined by the town board of the town of Unionville are entitled to health insurance coverage using the designated primary insurance carrier. We have to adjust this, and we were making some headway on updating our handbook, and then we lost an employee, so that effort stopped, but we'll get back on it when we get through some other things. Per the employee handbook, health insurance is for full-time regular employees and full-time elected officials, so we need to define full-time. And it would mean, is this for, like, we have a tax collector that works, that's tax collector.
But that's part-time.
That's
really.
part-time.
Yeah.
She's...
Seasonal even.
It's
seasonal.
January
So
through
I would
June.
say those that report here on a regular basis, daily basis, have
Like the highway super.
Highway.
Yeah, that full-time.
town clerk and town supervisor.
And then not the tax collector and not anybody that's not working here full-time. All right, I've got this in the section where we're going to talk about it again in the motions and make sure that that works. Okay, otherwise, we have to change our handbook. So we have to, that's something to discuss. And if everybody's not ready to discuss them, we can defer it one more time, but we did mention it at the workshop, so I would like to get that buttoned up when we can. Okay, so we'll postpone until, we'll talk about it again during the motions. Furnace Pond Dam. I'm so excited about this news. So the dam has been here for a very long time, and I think the town board recognizes that it's a wonderful asset, but we want to be responsible dam owners, as we've said before. And we've had this issue with the fact that we couldn't get over the cost associated with being a lower hazard class dam, and so we've got this wonderful firm, Malone & McBroom, who came in and wrote a wonderful, I'm calling it wonderful because it worked, but they wrote a memorandum to the DEC after doing some testing with us, and the DEC has agreed to lower our hazard class, get it back to an A.
Great. Excellent.
So I have to send them in the formal letter, and I was waiting to have the conversation with you because this can go in right away. They want to hear from me, but it's they've completed the review of the memorandum. But they said in accordance, that in accordance with a low hazard Class A dam, there are certain safety regulations that we're required as an owner to do. One is to operate and maintain the dam at all structures in a safe condition at all times, maintain in good order all available records regarding the dam and provide those records to any new owner, and here's the one, develop and implement an inspection and maintenance or an I&M plan for the dam within 90 days. So they want this I&M plan within 90 days, which once you're up and running and you've got your dam in good maintenance, in good shape from a maintenance standpoint, you do these annually.
Sure.
So on an ongoing basis to maintain our dam, maybe $5 to $10 grand a year, whatever it is, you fix stones, you do it, but we've got a gap, we've got to get there first.
Yeah.
But she wants our I&M plan in 90 days, so the engineers, of course, were very pleased with that news. They want a dam safety permit, which is required, before any work gets done, so they want to see all of this work. So Malone & McBroom said, look, we'll help you do the I&M plan, we can do that quickly, but it's going to, they list the tasks in this one pager I gave you, they list all their tasks. It would be $3,000 for the I&M plan, but they promised, they weren't planning on doing this because they didn't think she'd give us that task in 90 days, but they said they'll fit it in, they'll get it done, and they'll get it to Albany, to the DEC within the 90 days.
Great.
So they promised to do that, and then next up, as we discussed at our other board meeting, was we have to have them perform the engineering analysis on the dam, and that's a $35,000 to $45,000 cost. And we need to proceed with that right away. Because what she's saying is to move us down this path, the first step is the engineering analysis, and that's where they're going to tell us what's wrong.
Sure.
And they're going to do all their testing. And then they'll come back to us and say, here's what we found, here's what we recommend you do. And then if we take them on their recommendations, then they do a complete analysis, an engineering design plan with all the specs, the surveys and everything. And that could be done in the first quarter. because we can do the I&M, and then we start on the engineering analysis, and then we can go to the first quarter. We're going to have to move rapidly, though, because I think that, the dam is not getting any younger, like the rest of us.
Yeah, well, that's
So,
great news that the hazard class has been adjusted.
It's amazing for us. I mean, it's been so long, and these guys have good connections there. They're highly regarded, and I think it
There
helps.
must be to
So,
get results
yeah.
like that.
So,
When did our 90 days start?
as soon as she gets my letter. So I haven't sent it yet, because I wanted to have our discussion first.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'll send the letter in, if assuming, I think on the agenda, I put this motion to accept this agreement. And then
Yeah.
we can, if we move forward with that, I'll send her the letter, tell the guy, the
Yeah, it's
gentleman.
12.5 on our
Okay,
agenda.
all right, we'll get there in a second, and then we're on our way, and if we keep moving this thing forward, we're gonna have a very large expense next year. I just want to brace everybody. It's probably gonna be 200,000 or more to fix the dam or do whatever, and Councilman Frazier and I were talking earlier, he said years ago, they were worried that the number was higher, so this may, it's gonna be a large sum, but we can get it done to keep the thing in good shape, and then it'll last another 100 years, so that's our plan. Okay, I'm gonna pass on this dog control housing agreement. I mean, basically, we passed this out in 2 work sessions ago. We haven't been able to really talk about it, but I think we were all in agreement that the structure of it, they said that they would change the structure if we wanted, but the structure was that we were going to be responsible and have to pay them for the dogs and all that, which we can't do because we're not even there to pick them up and all that. So it's an untenable agreement. They said they'd go back to the old one if we wanted to, so I'm just
I would
assuming
prefer the old one, yeah.
that logic prevails and we just move forward that way. So it's not, there's no commitment, there's nothing financial in it for us, so it's not something we had previously voted to replace that old boiler.
Yeah.
It was done today,
Great.
yesterday, 2 days, it's been done the last couple of days. You got to go back and look at something clean and new in this
gas
building.
now,
It's just
right?
so fascinating. Yeah,
Good.
yeah, they had to hook it up to the
Lower
gas
maintenance,
pipes.
yeah,
Lower maintenance, and we separated out the electric heater.
good, for the
I
hot
mean,
water.
Steve, you two can explain this better than I can, but we have such little amount of hot water running through the
Yeah.
building. Hand washing or something.
Yeah, we used to have a furnace that would run to heat the building and heat the domestic hot water for the building. We used precious little hot water here, so now we're just going to have a gas-fired furnace to heat the building, which will be shut off when the warm weather comes, and we have electric hot water heater that's small capacity to provide the little hot water we need all year.
And what's great is that George Kolb has been, for years, has been saying it's probably running at 50% efficiency, that it lasted for a long time, and that thing was so old.
Well, it was almost 25 years old.
Yeah, so it lasted, it did a good job, but anyway, we wanted a more efficient situation, and it was done. I think they're finished today, they were still working on that last air handler. So, anyway, citizens preparedness training, the Dutchess County has that citizens preparedness training class that they'll come in and give here in Town Hall. And I have two Tuesdays, and a Wednesday. So November 14th is a Thursday. I don't think that's necessarily good for us because I think it might conflict with one of our meetings. Tuesday, November 19th we could take, and then it gets later, November 26th, Wednesday the 4th. December 4th.
I was going to say, when
Sorry.
December 4th?
Yeah, I'm moving forward on the calendar, sorry. So, but-
Wednesday is good for me, but I'm not that critical for it.
Tuesday, November 19th, Tuesday, November 26th, and Wednesday, December 4th.
Actually, I'm good on all of those, really, so.
Does anybody have a 19th, 26th? The 4th is, I don't know, it might get cold, I don't know. Yeah, November 19th and November 26th.
Yeah, it's things right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it's 2 days before, yeah, you're right.
I'm good with the other
What
two.
does that matter?
Well, for somebody that's not traveling or cooking, I guess it doesn't.
Well,
Ask
You can bring the whole family. You can
Ask
bring
Kathy
grandma. Get everybody from out of town to come. So what is your pleasure? You want to
So
say,
should we just do Tuesday, the 19th? That way I can't
get and have it
conflict.
earlier? All right, Tuesday, the 19th it
Tuesday?
is,
Okay.
and Andrea will advertise this, and I'll notify,
Oh,
it might, but It's okay, because we're using the courthouse, Tuesday nights, they're not there, so we've been sharing, and everybody's been, we've been able to fit everybody in. Okay, Tuesday the 19th,
Okay, sounds good.
and we will let everybody know on Unionville Mail, because a lot of our folks over there on the South and North Smith Road might want to come, and Meadow Ridge. The financial processes for tax collector and town clerk, do you remember we discussed those and I passed them out last time? We adjusted them according to the requirements of our insurance company, the request, not the requirements.
Yeah.
And it made sense. So we adjusted them, and I think it's been working fine, right, hasn't it? We said we'd test them. It worked
out
really
fine.
well, so I think we should
That's
probably
surprising.
pass that. Yeah, exactly. I think we should pass that tonight and get that in our policy book. And we were going to have a discussion, this is under the auspices of discussion. So we have had a request to take a look at a code, and I need some help formulating this, I think, because I wasn't involved in the one-on-one discussion, but I'm hearing this peripherally. There is a code that we have, or a section, I don't know the number, but it looks like C, where for carnivals, fairs, circuses, and other events, nothing in this chapter shall be construed as prohibiting a church, school, civic association, or similar nonprofit organization from holding a fair, carnival, circus, flea market, horse show, or similar event for a period not exceeding 3 calendar days upon its premises. The profit from which event is for the sole benefit of said applicant or other designated non-commercial beneficiary, or as requiring a permit therefor. Upon specific request, the code enforcement officer may, in accordance with the district schedule of use regulations, further issue a permit to any such organization located in the town of Unionville to hold such an event upon certain premises other than those of the applicant. Now, this came up in a discussion about the holiday lights on Darren Road, over there on Darren Road, right there where Patrick Road is. And the conversation, I believe, was around, there are still people in that area that don't like the hubbub that comes along with having traffic come through. So we recognize that. So somebody did mention that there was something in the code that may require us to take a look at issuing a permit. But the only thing, as I read this out loud, I think the one thing about it is that the person holding the event would be an organization. And this is a family, so I mean, let's have a discussion about this. I just read it to you, but the way that this reads to me, and our attorney, Jeff Battistone, you can take a look at this and let us know what your thoughts are when you've had time. I'll give this to you and then you can look, but I think preliminarily, the board, I think we have to get Jeff to weigh in on this because it's...
Yeah, it's a legal thing.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how it would work because the family that puts up the holiday lights, there's money collected, but the family's not collecting it. Let me know if you've heard anything different than what I'm saying here. The family's not collecting it, and they're not an organization, they're just a family, so I'm not sure that it falls under this, but does anybody have any other thought about it that maybe it would for, have you heard anything from anybody that maybe, just to get some...
So George and I did talk on Tuesday, so I am glad you're here, Jeff, because that really, George said he became aware of this last year when a resident brought it to his attention. Sort of, my big thing is policy and practice have to agree. So when I came across this in looking at some other things, because, I'm kind of a newbie on the board, so I'm still learning the code, and wow, our code is long. But in order to limit town liability, the things in our code have to match our practice, or we have to change the code, which is another way to go. Just like you're saying about the employee handbook. It certainly is an event that lasts more than 3 days. Residents in the past, probably every year, say, can't there be some kind of, temporary use permit because they use their property more, not commercially because they make money, but heavy traffic that isn't designed for in that area. And I give you kudos because I think last year there were many things put into place, extra constables.
Cones? Trying to block people from running in somebody's driveway.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That was
I do
important.
think there was still like, some of the people around there still complained about level of trash and stuff. I don't know, I don't really see why anyone ever, I actually have trash cans we drive around with in our cars. Like, I don't see why anybody ever throws their trash out the window, but apparently that was still an issue.
Are you sure? Because I was over there quite a few days to pick it up, and there was rarely anything.
Oh, that's good.
We did have a schedule of trash pickups.
Yeah.
So the
I don't
volunteers
know,
would go by.
I had a resident tell me that he still saw it, but not as much as in the past, so.
So maybe it
you know,
helped.
I guess that was definitely beneficial.
Okay.
And kudos to you that you did that. So I think,
Thank you.
you know, there are some things to look at here so that, I think part of maybe the frustration in the past, which is what I shared with all of you to bring this up for discussion, is that maybe residents in that area haven't really felt heard. You may be the first supervisor in a while that actually did something different to put some other things in place, except for like a couple years ago when the map went on to tell people how to go. But everything else was just like quick little throw things at it. So I think for us as a board to really come together cohesively, make sure if this falls under this code, if Jeff agrees that this type of event falls under this code, that either we move forward with what we need to do, request a temporary use permit or something to that effect, or whether we change. I mean, if it doesn't fall under it, we don't have to do anything, or if it does fall under it and we don't want to pursue anything, then we need to change our code. But then I don't know what that would mean going forward.
So why don't we do this? Well, I think it makes sense for us to get good information instead of, and if you don't mind taking a look at it, Jeff, I'll give this to you, although the number's missing, we'll get that to you tomorrow. Make sure you have it. The other thing, before I hand it off to you, the other discussion had to do with signage. And this is kind of interesting because it's event signs, and we know this rule, anybody that's had to campaign and for office knows. But the highlighted portion here that's important is when you're announcing a campaign, a drive or event of a not-for-profit, civic, philanthropic, educational, or religious organization to be erected not more than 10 calendar days prior to the event and removed within a period of 24 hours after the close of the event. So this has always driven you can't put those announcing signs, certainly on people's private property, they've always been able to go, but you couldn't put them on the town, on the public property, except for, or in the right-of-way, the town road and the right-of-way, except for 10 days before, and then you had to have them out of there within 24 hours. So on Election Day is November 5th. So because Election Day is November 5th, that is the event, that's the day, that's the way some people look, that's the day when the votes are counted and you find out who won the election. But now they have this thing called early voting, which starts on October 26th, which is exactly 10 days prior. So do we say you have to hang your signs on October 26th? Which without any guidance, just reading it, because the event's on the 5th, when some people called in, we said, well, given the rule, you're going to have to wait and put those signs up 10 days before, which would be the day that early voting started. But I think it is worth a discussion. I'm going to give this to you for later for clarification, but do you guys have any thoughts about that? Because I know some of the residents have always said, we love it here because the town isn't littered like, some of these other places that are littered all as soon as you go to 55. And they love the fact that it's so pretty here, and then you've got this 10-day concentration, but that 10-day now starts early voting. Now, I know the events, they don't get counted until the 5th. What do you guys think? Or do you want to wait until Jeff weighs in, or?
I'd rather wait till Jeff weighs in, because...
Well, now, Jeff won't be back, we won't have another meeting like this.
It's our own local law, though. Like, we're not violating any New York State law, it's a local law.
But it's town code, it's like, we want to be consistent.
But we're not,
earlier.
so depending on what day you perceive the event to be. really, the event starts on the 26th of October and ends on November 5th.
That's my opinion, too.
Yeah.
It's interesting,
so the
before
event
we vote, it messes
happens to
everything
be
up, kind of.
Yeah, yeah, it does.
longer. It's sort of like allowing a sign
Right.
while the roofer's doing your roof for a week. Like you allow the sign for a week and then, whatever. But the event isn't November 5th any longer.
Yeah, the event now starts
Yeah,
this year on
it's
October
a-
26th.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? It's kind of changes things we hadn't thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is this something that, the residents have strong opinions about the way the place looks, which is one of the reasons they love it. Is this something that, I don't know how Jeff, you could look at it later and tell us if you'd recommend us changing that wording so that we're all legal, which we all want to be, of course. But, especially with signage. But, it might be, depending on what advice you give us, maybe we get the residents to weigh in like any other issue.
I also would like to consider amending the 24-hour rule on the back end of it to include weather permitting. Because there was one year that the day after Election Day was a terrible ice storm. And I got criticized for not getting all my signs up. But I really didn't want to go out in that weather and do it.
Right. All right, so let's talk about this again, and Jeff can read the way the language is written and help us with that, and then I think that's a good, because that's going to be miserable.
Yeah. That time of year, you don't know what's going to happen.
But I think at this point, we should, make a motion that for this election, the event, as we've known it, starts at the 26th. So signs could be posted for elections as of October 16th, would be 10 days prior, which was yesterday.
I would second that. I feel as well that the state has mandated that the event starts 10 days earlier now than it had. And I would support that as well. Gives the candidates, it takes a commitment to step up as a candidate, and it gives them an opportunity to get their message out to the residents.
I think, it's funny, this year we've been handed all these things that we weren't expecting. So I think what we could do is pass that motion on a temporary basis and use it to handle this election that way.
Right.
And then have time to talk to the residents and get feedback. If some people are, they're so proud of the way the place looks, and if that becomes a big issue, or, we can take more time and be more deliberative later. But for this time, given that the whole election schedule is so crazy, we could do it, we could pass it on a temporary basis and then revisit it.
And this was just dumped in our laps a few weeks ago.
Right.
We haven't really had much time to think about it and discuss it. And it just popped in my head the other day when I contacted you. Hey, we've just moved the election date up.
Right. And we didn't have a chance to get input from anybody on any of these election decisions. So I feel comfortable passing it on a temporary basis and then revisiting it with our residents before we make any code changes or once we hear your clarification.
So her wording said applies to this year's election.
This election, because I think after, all said and done, budget, whatever, and Jeff gets back to us, I think we need to address both of those things. So so should I make a second motion to temporarily also suspend for this election, weather permitting, that the signs come down, if not the 6th, then weather permitting thereafter? Because like Steve's point was, there was like an ice storm, and who knows what.
Well, one criticism doesn't make a code change, to me.
No, not a code change, a temporary.
Go back to your original motion, let's vote on that. Since that was on the floor already, and then we can discuss that. I'm not sure that that's a really huge deal. I think we've got some generous people here, and they shouldn't criticize anybody in an ice storm, But let's go back. So the motion is to temporarily.
The motion is for this year's election, which is slated to start first early voting date on October 26th, that the 10-day
Window.
prior to start of event window, therefore started yesterday, which was October 16th, for this calendar election year only.
And we have a second.
And second.
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. And I don't think we have to deal with it right after the budget and all that. I think, well, we could, but it would be good, I think, to talk to people. Let's get out and hear from the residents and see what they say, and if we did it next
We'll
spring.
look at their feedback even on this election.
Yeah, that'll help.
Of the difference.
Okay.
I will say, our town looks still different than driving 55 in LaGrange or
Oh,
Beekman,
so
or,
much,
because
yeah.
those signs have been up for a month.
Yeah, it's nice to come in, it just feels pretty and quiet, and so we'll see what they say, but I think it's a good suggestion for now. I think those were all of ours. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the library agreement. In our work session, we discussed...
One more discussion, wood chips, and this is good, my husband's here. Sorry.
Okay.
In one of the emails, you said you had a traffic engineer review it?
Yes.
Did your traffic engineer give you a report?
No, it wasn't, I didn't hire him. He was the state DOT. We had George has been grappling with this for a while, and so they're a little busy, so it takes them a while to get back to us, but there was a New York State DOT and the county, and George and I had a discussion about the situation.
Okay. So there are a couple of codes that it may fall under. Sorry, I didn't make copies, but yes, we took nice pictures of the intersection from all different views. And the couple of codes that it could fall under is, obviously this came about because George had more than one complaint when he notified us of the intersection at 5521 and South Parliament with the wood chips and how high that wall of wood chips has gotten. First of all, I think John makes a good point that the property needs to have a driveway permit.
Yeah,
You
because,
can't have like just free access, and there's a makeshift driveway. So the town, because that is part of our code, does need to compel the homeowner to apply for a driveway permit, because we cannot, the town is liable if like the ambulance gets in an accident there, like because we knew they needed a driveway permit and we didn't do that. So that's probably first and
yeah,
foremost.
depending on where there's space, they're backing in or pulling in different places along that.
And it's not always the
property line.
same people.
Oh, right,
So they
yeah.
do it in different ways. And they're
Yeah.
crossing the road the wrong way sometimes. So they're facing,
And it's very close to the intersection.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's already, that fifth point of South Parliament is the unsafe part of the intersection. The rest of it, if you're on 55, that's not, it's the whole Parliament way. So when there is...
It's the town road.
Yeah, well, right, so out of all of these, because obviously, my husband's a highway engineer, so I had him take a look, and he took a look from all different angles, and the angle that is most concerning is when you are on 55 coming around to Parliament to see if there's another car sitting there, because the wood chips at some points are too high and then if you are on South Parliament to go this way until you actually get to the stop sign going onto 21, it's not clear. But so there's something under our code when there has been a complaint to our code enforcement officer, something called a public nuisance. So I found this interesting. So they use the word nuisance, but then when you look up nuisance in our code, they want us to go to noxious use. So it's any use which is dangerous, offensive, or injurious by reason of the emission of dust, smoke, refuse matter, odor, gas, fumes, noise, vibration, in contravention of the standards and criteria established by this chapter and other applicable laws, rules, codes, regulations. So for instance, if somebody is sort of putting their garbage all over their yard and neighbors are like, I don't like that now, there's bugs or animals or whatever. George can go and issue a ticket. So that is definitely somewhere. We have had complaints, there are concerns. We actually have in our town code about composting facilities, so I'm not really sure what's happening with those wood chips when they get there.
They use those for bedding for the cows.
Oh, okay. So, okay, so then this is not, as long as there's no profit made off it, that doesn't matter. I did talk about the driveway permits. So that's basically where we're at to...
So that was it's the public nuisance or the driveway permit, any other code?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I thought I had another code, but they're definitely not selling the wood chips, which is good. The corner lot obstructions. So my husband didn't quite feel that this actually fell under corner lots. I can give you these codes too. I can just give you this whole thing. But the obstructions at street intersections. At all street intersections, no obstructions to vision, such as fence, wall, hedge, structure, or planting over 3 feet in height, which I haven't measured them, but they are, as measured above curb level, if any, or above the existing roadway grade, shall be erected or installed or maintained within the triangle formed by the intersecting street lines or their projections where corners are rounded, and a straight line joining said street lines at points which are 30 feet distance from the point of intersection measuring along said street lines and/or projections. This subjection shall not, however, be construed to apply to existing street trees, provided that no branches are, the branches are maintained closer than 6 feet to the ground. So it may also fall under corner lots, but that would probably be literally have to be like,
So proven. Yeah, we have gotten numerous complaints, and George has reached out to, he did send a letter of warning to the family that owns that property. But that was just a heads up, because there's no, it's difficult, because the state DOT did come by and take a look at it. And that took a while, but they did come over and look at it. And they said that it wasn't at the point of violation, it was not a concern of theirs yet. This is on the 55 side.
Right.
So the county came over, and they said that if it's not a problem for the state yet, it's not a problem for us yet, but they said that they would suggest that we could look at a dumping law. He said, at some point, if this continues to grow, then we should look at a dumping law, because the dumping law comes with a fine. And you know, there's a fine associated with it. So, but I got to be very straight with you, because the family is dumping, you know, they're collecting all these wood chips, and they use, I don't know why they don't put them on their own field. I forgot to ask that question. But here's the thing, what's interesting is, and this is where the frustration with government does come into place, and I understand it, because they get a letter, they call, they say, why are you writing us this letter? You know, we want to, common sense might suggest to those of us in this room that you don't want to keep piling wood chips higher so that these drivers coming around can't see. But neither the state or the county have given us a height restriction. So we said, can you give us a height over which these people are in violation of something? And they don't have one. So it's frustrating. So one of the things that George said, in his estimation, it should be 48 inches. He said, you know, when you're sitting down in a car, because you put a piece of plywood up, he said, you're not going to be able to see.
Exactly.
So he would recommend to us that we consider 48 inches, and if you go over and you measure, I
I would
believe
go
it.
so far to say it's 36 with this low-slung cars that, you know,
Yeah, nowadays-
cars that are out there.
yeah, you'd have to figure out a low
Yeah.
car and a short lady.
Yeah, that just,
Some ladies are...
I don't think that's unreasonable.
Not to mention,
But also,
when they're loading or unloading them, there's no room on that parcel for a vehicle anymore. There's so many wood chips, so they're in the road.
so there's a safety problem right there.
Yeah.
So I think the driveway permit sounds good, but I will say that the family has called 3 times and said, what is the rule? How high? You tell me how high it is, then we'll flatten them, we'll do whatever. I said, well, just go ahead and flatten them anyway, because it's annoying to people, and you know, you really want to worry, you got to worry about the safety, even if there's not a rule that we can find. But it's frustrating, because we've tried very hard to find, okay, what exactly is the height, and they don't have one. So maybe we create one, it's 36 inches.
Well, I mean, it does say 3 feet in our code.
For which one, though?
For corner lots, obstructions at intersections. It says 3 feet.
Well, then if we can use that, Jeff, I think you might be able to help George out on this one.
I can look at that
Could
one
you
too.
could you give Jeff that
Yes,
code?
yes.
We need a magician to interpret our code. and
I'm
Jeff's
circling,
stepping up.
I know, I'm circling the 3 feet thing, so you'll find it, because it's not
And
a
if that's,
number.
if that's applicable here, then we're in business, but it has been hard, I'm sorry, it has been hard, I will say, to get a straight answer. So, and that, we thought maybe the ultimate answer would be that locally we come up with our own number. So if that one won't work, I think we put this on our list.
It's a lot better to have something already in the code to point to
Yeah.
than create a new one.
That would be so much better.
Right.
All right, well, thank you
Well,
very much.
especially if you've issued a thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you've put somebody on notice.
Okay. It'll be easy for them and easier for us, so certainly safer. All right, thank you. Now, next up, 12.1, library agreement with local libraries. In our workshop discussion and subsequently trying to get some feedback from residents, which was interesting on Saturday. What we did there was, at our workshop discussion, we've decided that, and I think that on Saturday, we didn't take a vote on Saturday, but I think some of the people were ultimately saying, okay, you guys do what you feel would be a good deal for us, move forward, and we want to go ahead and move forward, and we're going to send a proposition to an agreement to these local libraries and see if they will agree with some of the terms that we put in the agreement that we discussed. And it's really interesting, though. I feel like the whole library discussion is mom and dad are arguing at the dinner table, and all the kids want to do is eat. You know, just could you guys just give us some peace? It really feels like the Mid-Hudson Library System, the relationship with the town board of the town of Unionville is absolutely toxic. And they do not respond to any of our concerns. They don't want to set up meetings to talk. They don't want to negotiate. It's like, this is the offer. And we don't like that. But and I'm not demeaning the residents, I'm saying, but it feels like a family situation where the kids are like, we don't care, we just, we just want to eat a nice peaceful dinner, or we just want to go out. But our relationship is not good and not respectful, and in our view. And but aside from all that, everybody wants library services, and everybody wants to make sure that this works out. But we did talk about it that night. We're going to go ahead and we can vote on this now, but we discussed in our workshop that we like the idea of going ahead with our plan, which was to talk to them specifically, and then if that's rejected, then we have a problem, meaning we have to sit down and talk again about it. All right, where are those
So
copies? That I
I'm
gave them to?
confused.
Oh, Andrea gave them to me, wait a minute. Here they are, sorry.
I'm just confused when you say they refused to speak to you. So in the last letter, we as a town board received on October 3rd from all 4 board presidents of the 4 libraries, if the town supervisor would like to discuss ways we can collectively strengthen the relationship among the 4 impacted libraries in the town, we would welcome that. We suggest an online meeting to accommodate schedules and expedite that conversation if there are issues that hinge on the board's ability to sign the contract. However, to be clear, the financial offer on the table is in fact our final financial offer. So I'm confused when you say that they will not meet with you.
Right now, we are interested in getting an agreement taken care of, and that means that the financial offer that they say is their final is the one we want to talk about. And they don't want to talk about it because they've said it's final. So what I think we're in the workshop, and I guess I'm going to repeat this at the next meeting, because at the next meeting, probably in November, is when we're going to hopefully have heard back from the 2 libraries we're going to send this agreement out to. So between now and then, let's just send this agreement out and let's see what happens. But I think it needs to be made really clear with people, and I think that there are things that are missing. We want a normal relationship. And I will tell you that in the state of New York, it is not normal for a town to contract with a system. As a matter of fact, there are 22 systems, and when I have not found another system that has a contract with a town. It's not normally done. The towns contract with libraries. And when you call around, I think where we are with this situation with Mid-Hudson, and it got off to a bad, so we all know the history, and we know that it wasn't, that Unionvale years ago ignored this problem, but the other thing I want to point out, and then we'll move on to our motions. The other thing I want to point out, and this came up in our discussion with some of the residents on Saturday, and that was there is a tendency to want to say that Unionvale is not paying enough because we are in this category with the 4 surrounding towns, all of whom have library districts and all of whom vote and all of whom have taxpayers kicking in. And we've never had our voters, our residents vote. And in that category, we probably are pale in comparison because they're paying more because they've got a district. But what I think most of our residents don't know is all around the state of New York, the norm is to contract between the town and the unserved town and the library. And when you take a look at Unionvale and you put us in the category of other unserved towns around the state, we're paying more on a per capita basis than any other one I've found so far. So in the category of those with libraries, we don't have a library and we've never voted, and we look like we're paying less than they are. But that's not the category we should be in, because we're an unserved town. So we need to be measured against all the other unserved towns in the state. And there are a lot of them, because I can see Corinna going through the red list there.
Oh, this isn't the state. We can only compare to Mid-Hudson, because we're only in Mid-Hudson.
Not really, because we're the only unserved town. Milan is the only other one.
Right, and they do it different because they do it by school
but you have to,
districts.
the Mid-Hudson Library System is part of New York State. They get their funding from New York State, and our taxpayers pay for that. So we can't just compare it if we're the only town our size in Mid-Hudson Library System. We have to look around the state. And if you look around the state in unserved towns, we're at the top of the list. If you compare us to all the places that have libraries where voters have voted and they have a library district, we pay less than they do. That's true. What we're trying to get, though, is a normal relationship. And I called around all the systems. I talked to a library lawyer across the river who helped with the contract. And the fact of the matter is that the norm everywhere is they pay based on some metric that everybody calls a library card. That's what's done. There aren't systems that contract with towns. It's not illegal, according to election law. But the norm, we just want the norm. And the reason we want the norm is because I can see that it would be more collaborative, and I can see that the libraries would be better off, and I think that our residents, it would be seamless to them. Just like dinner table when parents are getting along and everything's fine. And that it would be seamless to the residents. They would have full services. So I don't know what the big deal is, frankly, because that is the norm around the state, and certainly the Mid-Hudson Library System is very familiar with what goes on around the state. So I'm going to suggest that we send this agreement to the libraries that we want to send it to.
Yeah, as we discussed.
We wait for a response, and then we pick it up again when we hear from them. If they want to take up this agreement, then we're fine, then we move forward, and if they don't, we have another discussion to have. But either way, we're all for library services. We want them to consider, and we want them to continue unrestricted. So, all right. If you want to take a minute to read this, it's a page and a half, page and 3/4.
So the one for Beekman would be identical?
Yeah, they're both identical.
The name's different, that's
Yeah.
all, right, okay.
But this should go out quickly. As we discussed, we would send it out right away. And we'll see what happens, and I think...
Do we want to send checks with them?
No, I thought we're a town. I was thinking they know we're good for it.
Okay.
Right? They know we're good, and, it would be accompanied with something like this, that would show. We'd pay the treasurer of the Board of Trustees, and it would show the number of cards and the dollar amount.
All right, so they would know exactly how much.
Yeah, and in both of these instances that we're recommending a dollar amount that would pay both those libraries more than they're currently getting paid. So the libraries would probably be happy with getting paid more than they're currently getting paid. We would have a direct relationship with them, a much more collaborative one. So let's try this as we discussed and see what happens.
Yeah.
All right?
So currently, I think we're, even based on that metric, we're only about $2,000 or so away from that 78,000. Let me pull up my calculator. So as of today, Beekman Library, Unionville residents at Beekman Library are $724. So times $55.
That's not what we have, Corinna, we don't have that number.
Well, but we're going to be signing, like, the agreement based upon the number of cards, I assume the day.
Right, but we don't have that number, and that's a huge jump from the other one, so it would have to be, we'd have to take a look at that number.
There is a report at Beekman Library you can get, and as of today, I believe the report was run Monday, but as of today, when I checked on it, it was 724 cardholders, so that's 39,820. And then at Millbrook, there, as of today, or Monday, was 634 Unionville cardholders, not to mention the other ones at LaGrange and Dover and Pleasant Valley, which I keep leaving out.
Why don't we put in East Fishkill? And you know what, I think somebody goes to Fishkill. I know some people who go to Auburn.
No, the whole Mid-Hudson.
And you know, Poughkeepsie, a lot of people, a woman was telling me how she stops in at Poughkeepsie too. I think we should pay all those libraries.
So Betsy, when you get a library card.
I know, it's good for the system. That's what I mean, it can be at any one, like you get any library, it's good for the whole system.
But excuse me. So let's say you walk in tomorrow and you get a library card at the Millbrook Library. Your library card, yes, says Millbrook. You're coded into your library card is Millbrook. But of course, yes, you're in the system.
Right.
So there are only 1790 Unionville cardholders in the Mid-Hudson Library system. All of those 790 cards are between these 5 libraries. And I'm only saying, wow, I never even thought about Pleasant Valley, but there's 24 cards at Pleasant Valley, because people that sort of live over that end. But, so then if we go back to Millbrook, then we get to, that's 34,870.
So, Corinna, let me just make a suggestion. What we're gonna do is reach out to these people. It's not a calculator discussion right now, because they have to respond to us. And until they respond to us, that's all a moot point, because we don't know if those numbers are accurate. We know for 8 years, those numbers have never vacillated by more than 25. So if there's more than a bigger jump than we are looking for, or that we've seen over a long period of time a pattern, if there's a bigger jump, we'd want to know about it. But right now, we're just talking about reaching out to these people and changing the relationship in a way that is better for us and for them, and where the residents feel no pain and no difference. So, I'd like to make a motion that we take this...
want to have discussion.
Well, wait a minute, we're going to make the motion second, and then we'll go back to your discussion. I think we have to have that. Make a motion that we pass this, that we send this agreement out as soon as possible to those 2 libraries and let them react. And then the math comes later. The math is not what we're dealing now. So the motion is, should we send this out to the libraries, the 2 that we've discussed, and we've discussed at length many, many, many times. Wait for that for them to respond to us before we get into the numbers.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Okay. Discussion.
So the reason for my hesitance is because math doesn't really come later, because let's say they sign it. So next year, we're paying $74,690, which is some savings. Let's just pretend it goes up by 100 cards the year after. Well, then we're paying more, but in the current contract, we weren't. So this seems,
well, I mean,
it seems
it's not
a risk to take.
It means that they're not purging according to the rules. That's what that means.
No, that's
not
one
an open discussion.
That's one assumption. But unless you can back that up with fact and prove they're not purging, because I've got family members purge.
Both of you were talking about hypothetical situations, and that has nothing to do with what's written on the contract here.
Right.
If they sign the contract, we have now committed.
And we have an opportunity to renege from it as well. That's written right into the contract. If those conditions that you described which should suddenly appear, then we have the opportunity to back out of this contract.
True.
And there's also accountability built into this contract that we haven't had in the past.
There's also no restrictions in this contract that we have had in the past.
Yeah.
Well, yes, because it would just, if we default on it and don't pay, we would be restricted.
No, there's restrictions in the current contract, as you know,
Yes, which are not being followed, but yes, by
Right.
letter of the law, they are in there.
Correct. Okay. So let's just take, we had a long discussion about this at the work session. You know where we're going with it. There's an opportunity for them to say no, and then we have another issue. So there's a motion on the floor, there's a second. All in favor of sending this out to see what happens, say aye.
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 Nay.
Motion carries. We'll send this out right away. We'll take up that discussion where we can. Okay. We have a motion on that we need to pass. This would be a motion to approve the purchase of a new snowplow blades for all trucks.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Have there been, were we given any quotes or
Through
anything?
the state bid system.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you seen this? You've seen this before. You've already signed off on it. Okay. All right. There's a motion, there's a second to approve the purchase of new snowplow blades for all trucks at $8105.04, $8,105.04. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. There's a motion, I'd like to discuss the motion to approve certain employee benefit and payroll changes for inclusion in the employee handbook.
I would like to ask to table this to the next meeting so that I can study
Okay.
what we actually want to do.
Okay, let's table it. The 12.3, there's a motion to approve. We got today our contract with the fire department, the Unionville Fire District. We would like to continue our contract with the fire district, same terms. Our Parks Department will go over and plow. It's the same dollar amount. We'll get paid $3,000 for it. It's, the relationship seems to have worked well for them, according to
Is
the
Jake,
Chairman Richards. Jake is pleased with it?
Actually, it's supposed to be both highway and parks, but the highway never got around to it.
Oh, so Jake thinks it's his responsibility and the
Well,
Parks guys always take care of it?
Here's the thing. 2 years ago, when we had that really heavy storm, what prompted this was the contractor for the fire district was not able to plow the heavy snow that accumulated. The highway guys had to come with their big trucks and at least get some area clear.
Right.
So if it really gets bad, the highway guys will be needed
That's
with their
good.
big trucks.
It's good the way it's written, because
Yeah.
we can go either way.
Yeah, but Jake has really taken a lead
Yeah.
the last 2 years and really done a very good job.
And that way he can do a handoff if it's necessary, and they can work amongst themselves to make sure it gets done, because they do take it seriously. All right, so the contract reads, it's open, either one. Jake's in the lead unless he hands it off, or that requires.
Yeah, if he works it out with the highway
The
superintendent.
fee is $3,000 that we get paid even if it doesn't snow. How's
Right.
that for a deal? Okay. So I'd like to make a motion, we approve the snow plowing agreement with the Unionville Fire District for the sum of $3,000 for the year through the rest of 2019 and 2020. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. All right, motion carries. I thought we should probably vote on this because we're going to be going and interacting with residents. A motion to approve the use of recycling center survey to get input from residents on additional uses for the recycling center.
Yeah, in honor of the CAC, it's a good idea. I'm going to make a motion that we approve that.
I'll second it. All in favor of testing this recycling center survey at the recycling center? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay, that motion carries. And I'd like to make, I can go ahead and make this one, just so, unless somebody else would like to.
You should do it.
Make a motion to approve the Malone and McBroom's inspection and maintenance plan for Furnace Pond Dam for the sum of $3,000 and have them get started right away. Is there a second? Thank you, Councilman Frazier. All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? All right, motion carries. All right, at this point, I'd like to suggest that somebody make a motion that we
I'll make
approve
a
the budget
motion to
adjustments.
approve budget adjustments, transfers, warrants, and pay bills.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, are there any public comments on town issues? Yes.
Two quick things. You mentioned that there was a meeting Saturday with residents regarding the library. I didn't see any notice for that or
It wasn't a public meeting.
Well, but which residents were invited and why were they picked?
About 10 or 12 residents have been writing me directly on email, and I've been corresponding back and forth with them. So I wrote them an email and said, we've been chatting about this on email, would you like to come in and talk about it in person? And they came.
Okay, so you only got those 10 comments, not the rest? That's my...
Oh, I feel like
So-
I think that they were pretty representative. They were all very pro-library, and I think they were pretty representative of most people's, but you can share yours too.
Yeah.
That was, I think, what you did earlier.
So the other question I have is, and I'll follow up with an email to the board, for the information about unserved libraries and how they handle it, if I could get that information, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
You know, it's on the library system.
Okay, so if you can send me the link, I'll email it.
Your wife has it. She's got all those maps. She's got, yeah.
No, but that's not, I don't think that's what he's asking. He can get the map, but it's how they handle it. You
Like
seem
their
to have done
agreements,
a lot of research
like
in different
how
areas.
can we find that
Yeah, I've got
information?
some for each category, which is
So-
libraries and about 5 for the unserved, and on a per capita basis.
Okay, so I'll send in...
interested in that?
Yes, absolutely.
Great, good.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there anything else that anybody would like to say about public issues or town issues? Would you like to come up?
I just wanted to comment that the number of cardholders, the record of the number of cardholders is probably low, because Town of Unionville residents have all addresses all over the place.
Yeah, 7.
There are people who live in Unionville, whose addresses are Burbank. There are people who live in Unionville whose addresses are LaGrange. It's all over. So it's very easy when you're making a new library card to code with the address. So, okay, so these people live on Route 82 in Unionville. I happen to know somebody who lives on the corner of 82 and Oswego Road. That's Unionville, but their address is LaGrange.
No, that's LaGrange.
That corner's LaGrange.
That corner's actually LaGrange? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, but you move in a little bit. It's
But you move in a little bit, then it's still LaGrange addresses, but Unionville, but it's actually in Unionville.
Yes.
So it takes considerable time to figure out, to not code those people LaGrange.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
If you know.
Can I ask you a question, Karen?
Sure.
There's 2 other ways to do this. One way is that you have library users in your town come in and you get X number of passes, so to speak, and you have them sign up every year, the people that want to use it for that year. And the number of people that sign up are the people that get paid for it. So that means people are renewing their library cards every year. I'm not sure that people want to do that, but that is one way to do it if you really want an accurate count of cards. The other way of doing it is what some of these towns that I have taken the time to do the research on, and Mr. Kelly can add to my research, that some of these towns, what they'll do is they'll have the resident come in. How does this sound to you? They'll have the resident come in and they get a verification of their address card from the town clerk, and then they take that to the library, and it clearly would say Unionville on it. They hand that to get their library card. So then the library doesn't have that issue of, oh my gosh, which zip code are they in, and are they Unionville, Millbrook, and all that, which is hard for somebody at a desk of a library setting up a new card. Maybe one of the alternate ways would be to use a verification from the town, come to the clerk's office, get it like getting a recycling permit. This is my, I need my verification to get my library card. Here it is, or I'll mail it to you. Then you walk into your library of choice and you hand that to them, and the library doesn't have to worry about anything administratively. They just type it in, it's done. That might be another way to make sure that the count is accurate, and then it's easier on the library staff who sometimes is confused with the town of Unionville. I can see that.
I can see how that would be easier on the library staff. That sounds to me like a huge hassle for the individual to have to do that detour to go and get this verification before walking in and getting a library. I mean, you can walk in and get a library card, it'd take you 15 minutes.
Right.
Less.
Yeah.
15 minutes if the whole place is crowded with people. More like 5
Better than
otherwise.
the DMV.
But much quicker than the DMV.
Well, I think that there are alternate ways of solving the problem that Councilwoman Kelly is bringing up, and we could put our heads together and do it. And somebody with your experience would be quite helpful in adding advice to that. But I think there's more than one way to look at it. But at least we'd have a verifiable metric. We'd have something that people would feel comfortable with, anybody. And as long as the resident is happy and gets restricted library services, it's a win-win. So maybe we can figure it out. But thank you for your help. Any other comments on town issues?
I'm very disheartened that so many people came tonight and spoke before this meeting, and really, from what I heard, was they wanted library services continued in the way that they have been, which means you pay for all the residents, there's no counting card holders. You've received many emails from people. You opened up Saturday morning, a lot of us spoke to you. And then tonight, you just said, we're going forward with this proposal. So I think it's very disheartening to have so many people show up, express their opinion, and then the town board just say, but this is what we're going to do.
But Mrs. Kilcrease, let me just say, at the end of that meeting on Saturday, the result of the meeting was, people said the board should do what they talked about doing, and then we'll see what happens.
You had a couple of people do that. I did not. I was attending the meeting, and I know, speaking with people leaving the meeting, that was not the message that they would want you to get. So you also had a lot of new people show up tonight. That's my opinion, very disheartening.
So the other question that I think at some point I'd like to have people answer, and then we can adjourn the meeting. They're completely different things. The service that somebody wants to continue should be unimpeded in this avenue. The service doesn't change. So if the residents have the exact same service, the residents should not mind if the town board thinks that the future of this process is better handled in a different way, since this is the norm all around the state of New York. If the service is the same, then the residents get the same service or better, because it's unrestricted in a contract, okay? Even though that's not utilized and that's not practiced. If it's the same to the residents, it shouldn't matter. All we want is a normal relationship, and this is the way they're structured all around the state. So, with that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Wait.
Oh,
And
you're
then-
waiting? I'm sorry. Please come up.
And then after, Carlos, when are we actually going to talk about the budget?
We talked about it. It was a public hearing for the budget.
No, the town board gets to discuss the budget too. That wasn't.
No, tonight was a public hearing for the public, and we talk about it in our work session on the 7th, like we did on the last work session.
Okay, even though it will be a voting work session, it will be more like a town board meeting. I don't know, in previous years, maybe not.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm not remembering.
This is
We
what we
talked
did
about
last
the
year.
budget because I have lots of questions that some of them are
Corinne,
probably silly.
we can talk about those at any time, I think.
But I want them to be public, so the public gets the questions answered.
Okay. All right, well, it's not tonight. We're almost finished. We could do it on the 7th. We followed the same schedule as last year. I'm not sure where that went awry. But it's 9:15, and Mr. Mean is up.
When you was talking about the wood chip problem, a couple of weeks ago, I listened to the radio, and the county was sending tankers down to, I think it was Kent, and for a brush fire. Well, it wasn't a brush fire, it was a wood chip fire. And wood chips catch fire. Even after rain like today, they could still catch fire. So that's something you ought to consider too.
And it's hard to put out.
Yeah, and you got to spread it out, and there's no place to spread it there.
It was 55 and 21.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
The state might care.
And one other thing, when are we going to get some people in the rental houses?
We can't tell you that. We can just tell you when it happens.
I know, but it's been a year for one and about 6 or 7 months for the other one. So something's got to be wrong, because I know people looking for places to stay all the time.
Will you refer them to us? That'd be great.
Well,
Now that we don't have a...
Well, I heard a rumor how much you want for them, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, why don't you have them call us? Just have them call anyway.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carlos.
All right, till now I'm back again. Carlos, when did you bring the idea to the board about the signage law? How many years ago was that? Do you remember? 2008, 2010?
Something like that.
So it's not really old, it's relatively new. All right. Who brought my sign from the road here, from Driscoll Road? Did it just magically lift itself and end up here in the building?
Well, I just asked you why it was here.
The only one who's permitted to do that is our code enforcement officer.
So he brought it up.
I did not see anybody do it, so I don't know, but that's the only person who's permitted to do it.
Well, I put it in because, as far as I was concerned, the law said 10 days before. Actually, yesterday was 10 days before, but I didn't think about that till this morning. I complained to you several times, Betsy. I didn't call it, well, everybody knows I complain all the time, about all the Republican signs around the town. 2 Democrat signs were put on my road, everybody's road, on the day of Oktoberfest. They disappeared within 48 hours. I was never able to track them down. Republican sign, and I've been putting up, I not have been, but I did put up all those blood signs all over town. And the Republican signs are all over the place.
Well,
nobody's picking them up.
Okay.
One stinking sign I put, it's within the law, unless he decides, or somebody decides.
Okay, we
and
get
it's
it.
picked up immediately. What kind of fairness is
listen,
this?
Alfreda, you know, we can't account for all these people. I actually placed a call when you called me and said, hey, do you guys know we have this 10-day rule in Unionville? They did not know. I asked them to stop doing it. So I did place that call that day. I haven't seen that many. I live in the opposite direction. I haven't seen signs in my direction.
There's signs in Burbank from both parties.
I haven't seen any of those.
Okay,
I didn't, Bedley's was supposed to put signs.
Your sign
blood
just
signs
happened
in.
to be close to town hall. My guess is the code enforcement officer may have seen it. I don't know. I didn't.
So where am I going to be allowed to put my little signs in?
Well, as of tonight's motion, you can put it in on your way home.
I'm going to put it back.
Yeah.
I don't want it gone.
Well, it was done officially, so
Drive
you're
by
good.
because year after year, I see Democrat signs not being there because the McCabe's told us play by the rules. And I see Republican signs out there, some on private property, but some
You're
on
turning
public
this too
property.
political. You heard the motion was passed tonight.
Okay.
There are plenty of people that disagree with
Is
you.
it time to challenge this law, or is it time for this town to...
We've already made a motion
Discuss the law?
tonight, Alfreda. We're going to
Made a
discuss this later.
motion,
Okay.
we'll review it.
We need to talk to
Jeff will
residents.
Review it.
It's very agrifying. All right, well, the last thing I have to say. Karina mentioned this letter that was electronically shipped to people.
What letter was that?
What's
This
that?
letter that went to the town board on October 3rd. And it appeared on my son's, because I don't do electronic stuff, remember that.
It's a different one.
On my son's machine, and he printed out a copy for me. And this letter, written October 3rd, mailed out October 3rd.
By
came
who?
to my- By
The board president?
Rebecca, whatever her last name is.
Oh, Rebecca
The
Aldrich?
Mid-Hudson Library.
Oh, you're talking about Mid-Hudson.
You got that letter.
No,
Sent to all board members.
No, it wasn't. Oh, you're talking about the letter that's embedded in the email you're referring to. Yes.
Yes, yes.
She's talking about the
And
trustees.
if you read it, it clearly states that the 4 towns that we seem to be talking with all the time, and now maybe Pleasant Valley is number 5,
They're not looking for it.
they've signed this indicating they don't want to talk. The Saturday meeting that I bulled my way into, because I did not get an email, because I don't do email, here in Town Hall, and Betsy, you indicated that it looked like Millbrook would fall. Millbrook would go along
I did not
with it.
indicate that. I did not indicate
No,
that.
you didn't? Oh, I wish we had...
You're talking
recorded.
about, no, you're talking about at the work session.
No.
The other meeting.
That's another thing. I'm talking about the Saturday meeting where you invited people and I came.
We did not talk about the individual libraries. We spent,
Yes, you did.
okay, Alfreda, that
I should have
meeting,
recorded it.
that
I don't know
meeting,
how to do electronic.
Sue could confirm.
that meeting was a very interesting meeting. That the residents were pretty straight about what it is they wanted. And we spent a lot of time talking about a system versus a library. And I think that the board has already made a decision about what we're going to do, and I think it's enough. It's enough. You've got enough time.
This letter that you got on the 3rd, that we as citizens got days later, indicates that all 4 of these boards want to deal through Mid-Hudson Library. Stop shuffling papers, Betsy. Read this. If you haven't read it yet,
Okay,
it's time.
you've had enough time. The meeting is over.
I'm done.
Thank you very much.
Putting my sign up.
Did we have passed that motion?
Motion to
Am I
adjourn.
putting them all
Is it
over the
second?
place now, or just
All
on
right,
this one?
this meeting is adjourned. Now, Elfrida, stop.
Yes.
This is a legislative session. Good night. Okay, we're done. We will have a,